Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about the status of the $2,000 stimulus check, the $600 stimulus check, the $300 unemployment insurance benefits, and the overall status of the stimulus bill with all of the other provisions in it. As of right now, the bill passed Congress, but it is not law because it is not signed into law yet by President Trump. It's on his desk waiting to be signed, but he has some objections. We're going to be talking about that in this video, the latest in what that actually means for you, when you could expect to get that stimulus check, if at all, and everything else you need to know. Now, for those who don't know, my name is Kevin Conway. I make stimulus news update videos all the time. I'm an attorney here in California, and I have my trusty sidekick, Button, who's been appearing in some of the videos. You may notice his picture right here. He's laying on the ground next to me. He might show up in this video. We don't really know. With that being said, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel and giving a like to this video, I'd really appreciate it. Now, with that being said, let's jump right into the news. So here's the latest. We had the bill passed by Congress and it went to President Trump, but President Trump did not sign the bill yet. And the reason is because President Trump wants $2,000 stimulus checks as opposed to $600 stimulus checks. Now, we're going to be talking about whether we think he can actually get that a little bit later, but here's the big consequence as of right now. Last night, for millions of people across the country, they lost their unemployment insurance benefits that were passed in the CARES Act back in March. The reason they did so is because they were set to expire the day after Christmas, and the thought was that they would have another bill by then passed. Now, the problem is we had the bill, but it's not signed into law. So as of right now, we have an estimated 14 million people, around 3/4 of all people on unemployment insurance, who no longer can get it. That includes gig workers, contractors, people who normally wouldn't qualify for unemployment insurance, or those who have already exhausted their state benefits, usually around 26 weeks, and those people would get that additional 13 weeks of unemployment insurance. All of that is out the window. If you're one of those people, unfortunately, you have lost your unemployment insurance coverage. Now, the bill that is on President Trump's desk right now actually would re-up the qualifications for unemployment insurance for millions of people. The same thing, the gig workers, the independent contractors, all of those people. And it would also give an additional $300 per week in federal unemployment insurance on top of your state benefit. And it would extend your state benefits all the way until a total of 50 weeks from the time you originally got it. For most people, that is 11 weeks longer than what they were getting before. Now, a lot of people have asked, will this be retroactive when it passes? And the answer is likely no. And the reason is because the money allocated for this is really not that large, and it only is scheduled to go until mid-March. So unfortunately, the unemployment insurance of $300 per week is not going to be retroactive. For those who remember, we had the $600 federal unemployment insurance boost that expired at the end of July. And since then, people have only been getting their state benefits, but unfortunately, it'll not be retroactive here. So all this is really frustrating. So what does President Trump have to say about his refusal to sign this bill? Well, he says, I simply want to get our great people $2,000 rather than the measly $600 that is now in the bill. He cites the excessive pork, so to speak, the extra things in the bill that aren't really related to the economic slowdown in the bill to actually say, we can get rid of these things to give more stimulus checks. Now, what he cites specifically is the $55 billion in overseas aid that is given, and around that, around $26 billion is directly related to developing countries. So we're giving money to other countries to build them up in his eyes, and we should be giving that money to the people here in America. There's also around $40 million for the JFK Center for Performing Arts. I don't know why that's in this bill. There's also money to study the Dalai Lama and a bunch of other crazy stuff I talked about in my last video. And I see the point of packing this bill with a lot of things is kind of frustrating when we're talking about giving people $2,000, $600, or not any money at all. What do you guys think of this entire negotiation? Do you think Trump is in the right, or do you think we should just say, let's just pass this bill now and try to get another bill passed? Now, let me talk about the actual consequence of this. A lot of people have been saying President Trump may veto this bill, or he may not veto this bill. Now, here's really the way it works. If you get a bill as president and it sits on your desk for longer than 10 days and you don't veto it, well, it automatically becomes law. Now, the interesting thing is that only is the case if Congress is in session. As of right now, Congress is scheduled to end their session on January 3rd, which means that if he holds this bill, it won't have been 10 days, and therefore it'll collapse and no longer become law. He could just hold on to this bill, pocket veto it, if you will, and that will be, in effect, a veto nonetheless. The problem with this is that it doesn't give Congress enough time to override his veto because he hasn't explicitly vetoed this bill as of now. That's really kind of the scary thing because Congress ends session on January 3rd, and they won't get into session again for another couple weeks, which means several million people could be out of unemployment insurance, and lots of other people can no longer be receiving aid of any sort, all because Congress didn't reach a bill enough to give to President Trump and then override his veto if they chose to do so. To make matters worse, the government runs out of money, I know, again, on Monday night, actually Tuesday morning at 12:01 a.m., which means they basically have tomorrow to decide all of this in order to fund the next round of spending in the government, because this stimulus bill is attached to the funding of the government in the first place. That's very frustrating. And to make matters worse, last week President Trump vetoed a defense spending bill which would have authorized several $100 billion for defense spending, and included a whole host of other things in there. And President Trump said he didn't want to sign it because it revoked the names of Confederate generals and Confederate memorials on all sorts of different military apparatuses all across the world and in America. And he said that it didn't do enough to revoke the Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, basically a provision that gives liability protection for internet companies like Facebook and Google from actually getting being liable for the posts of their users. He doesn't like that because he feels that the internet companies are biased against the right wing, and that's why he didn't sign the Defense Spending Act, and there are several other reasons, but basically that is going to take a lot of resources in Congress tomorrow to actually get around and trying to override that from President Trump's veto. It would be the first time that Congress has overridden President Trump's veto in any act, and they're probably going to do that tomorrow, which again leaves less time to get this stimulus bill passed. So what do you guys think of all this? Let me know in the comments below. We're going to have new updates all the time. I'm going to be releasing new videos every single day this week talking about the status of the stimulus bill. It's so crucial that we get something done this week because time is ticking. Congress is almost out of session, and therefore we'll not have anything until presumably the Biden administration comes in and passes a new round of stimulus. Biden has talked about wanting to pass new stimulus all the time, so it's likely that there's going to be stimulus in the future, but the question is, will it be now or later on? And for millions of people who don't have unemployment insurance benefits right now, and those stimulus checks and everything else, well, it's going to be very difficult to survive until that end. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm just here bringing you the latest. I'm not trying to be biased in any way. I'm just giving you the facts and letting you know exactly what you need to know to stay up to the latest on this. With that being said, my name is Kevin Conway. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, give a like to this video, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.